Coming up on your favorite podcast, we are joined by my main man, Ty. It's going to be fun. We haven't talked in a while, not since the Ryder Cup, but Ty wants to drop in. We're going to talk Tiger Woods and his triumphant return to the game of golf. We couldn't call it anything but that. That was a really impressive showing this past weekend with young son Charlie. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll get into some of the other news around golf since Ty and I have spoken, though. Get into a little Greg Norman Saudi Golf League talk, maybe talk a little bit about the major championship venues for the season and kind of preview the upcoming season as it goes. We're just a few weeks away from Ty being a regular part of the pod once again as we get into our talk of the PGA Tour. So it should be fun. We're going to talk golf, 45 minutes to an hour here. Hope you enjoy it. It's Ty, it's I, it's next, and it's on the pod.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
Hey, it's the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim. That's my buddy Ty over there, the insurance agent to the stars and the golf wizard guru, if you will, in his palatial manner north of me. Tyus, welcome back to the pod. It's been a couple of months. It's so good to see you. It's been a while. Been too long.
I've been waiting so long to hear my name in that intro. I listen to the podcast every chance I get, so I've heard the voice, but I have not heard my name. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy it's going to be about golf because we got some stuff to talk about. Obviously, it's been 3 months apart, as you just reminded me. And yeah, let's get after it.
Let's get after it indeed. First of all, just on the I want to apologize to you for just a tough fantasy football season. And we're being subjected right now to the Washington football team, Philadelphia Eagles, on TV as well. And there are about 145 COVID cases going on right now. And what has been just the wildest it's going to be a bananas finish here at the NFL season. But I'm glad you got out of it early and missed the whole playoffs and missed all the COVID nonsense.
Yeah, that's certainly the positive of it. And I think you could say that about really any fantasy football season because it does just seem so random. And, you know, it's easy to say for the guy who comes off as he's the worst fantasy football player in the history of the world.
Who does have a championship in my league. Has a championship in my league.
I do. That should go on record. I did have the belt for a little while. But COVID stuff aside, man, fantasy football can be such a luck game. But the law of large numbers, I was in 3 leagues this year and I did not make the playoffs and I wasn't especially close in any of the 3 leagues. So it might be time to just hang it up.
No,
I've certainly considered it, but you know what happens.
Not
when
my league.
August
you're not hanging it up.
You get the itch.
Listen, when you're a champion in my league, you can't give that up. That's a rule. Like I think it's kind of like the original 6 in hockey. They're not going anywhere. Like
that's true.
You're not the Hartford Whalers of my organization. You're here for life, pal.
That. I wasn't seeing it that way, but now I feel honored, and yeah, that totally changes everything. Zach tried to haze me out of the league, but little does he know I'm going to come back bigger, stronger, and more educated.
Well, like I said, he felt so bad that he ended up becoming a customer to you. I mean, what do you want from him?
I mean, in hindsight, I'll take it. I'll take that every day. I'll trade him my first 3 picks.
He hopes that he hopes that you've buried the hatchet now because of that. He hopes that means you guys are all back together and that you're happy and everything's good.
I can admit that, yes. I was slightly upset for about an hour, but just like a Vikings football game, I hate to admit it, but you slam a remote or two, and then an hour later, you don't really care.
Great point. Couple of beers in you, everything's good after that.
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly.
100%. Speaking of hockey, before we get into all the golf, they just announced today that they're not going to send NHL players to the Olympics because of the COVID stuff. I know you're a big hockey guy, so that they're on pause, and now the Olympics are out of play. What's your mood here? I just kind of want to get your thoughts because I don't get to talk a lot of hockey on this pod, and just you're being a hockey guy, I'm curious your thoughts before we get into the golf.
Yeah, the Olympics are, I don't know what you'd compare it to, but they're a little bit anticlimactic. And it has the allure of the Miracle movie and what everybody knows about the 1980 Olympics, and it's had its moments, but in general, hockey has never really been an Olympic sport as far as the purebloods are concerned, because there are, it's, what would I equate it to? I'm not sure, but it's not something that the hockey purists are going to be super offended by, because we're kind of used to it at this point. Yeah, we had the hope that the NHL players were going to play, but ultimately we're not heartbroken. Really, if you're a true hockey person, you really care a lot more about World Junior Hockey and the NHL season. So the Olympics aren't really going to offend anybody. And just like the Summer Olympics, does anybody really care about basketball and all that? Not really. It's kind of your opportunity to see the more obscure sports that you don't see the other 4 years of the year, So that's more so the way I look at it. I'll look forward to watching things I don't normally watch, and I won't really be offended by the fact that my favorite NHL players are not there, because I get to watch them in the NHL the next day. So no big deal for me.
Yep, they're on a slight pause right now. They are through this week, which stinks, but hopefully they can get through some of these. I mean, you talk about the NFL getting it bad. The NHL's getting just slammed with COVID stuff, so hopefully they'll be good to go here.
They are, and I should say, honestly, I think it's the right call. If, let's say, you're a multi-million-dollar athlete and you're working for your franchise and making good money, and you're told, hey, you can go to China for a couple of weeks, play some hockey, but if you do catch this highly contagious version of the virus, you may have to stay in China in your hotel room for another couple of weeks and potentially miss pay and critical weeks of your team season. I'm not sure I'm all too thrilled about that.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to hang out in communist dictator China. I'm sure it's lovely. I'm sure the athletes will be treated well, but I can't imagine that's a lot of fun if you get stuck in that situation. Just can't imagine.
Right.
So
nope.
Good luck to the hockey folks. Good luck to all the sports people in general. I mean, it does seem like it. The good news is it seems like it's a more contagious, but it does seem like a milder version of this, that maybe we are moving towards the home stretch on this, but I've been saying that for a year and a half. So what the hell do I know? I've given up. Stop trying to guess. I no longer guess. I'm just here for it. I'm here for the good time, Tyus, and that's golf. Golfing. You were late to this podcast tonight because you, my friend, were hitting. Where were you hitting? How were you hitting?
I was slightly late. I was about 7 minutes late logging on. And that was because I was playing the simulator at Wintergreens with a friend, John, of mine. And I've actually played the simulator twice in the last week.
I'm hitting it tomorrow morning.
And hit Top Golf yesterday. So I'm like a regular, everyday golfer kind of guy. But so we played Kapalua a week ago in honor of the Hawaii swing. And that was fun. A lot of elevation change. I remember my buddy was saying there's not as much elevation change on this front as I thought. And then on the back, it was like,
oh yeah,
you were hitting drives where it was 100 feet downhill. So that was fun. And then today we made the decision to play Bandon Dunes.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if it had to do with the simulator. I don't know if it had to do with an altitude adjustment or what. I've never played golf in Oregon, but I was hitting drives like 380, 390, which is not.
Did you have the boost on?
I don't care if I'm in Arizona. 40 yards downwind. I'm not hitting the ball 390. It's just not happening.
I mean, you are a legitimate. You drive the ball legitimately 300 yards, like 290, 300. I mean, I want to make sure that people don't get this notion that you're a 240 guy that exaggerates it to 380 in the sim. Like you're legitimate 290, 300 off tees. As a guy who plays golf with you. So, I mean, it's not no BS if you can get downhill to hit a 320, 330 drive with some downwind.
No. And I urge someone to play Bandon Dunes at Wintergreens in Isanti. Lovely place. They charge a great price. They always seem to have openings.
It's the best price in the game. It's not close.
Yep. And I love dive bars. It's a dive bar. Yep. And I say that in a great, a total complimentary way. I I do feel a little awkward hitting bomb drives into the screen that make a loud noise when people are sitting there trying to play bingo. But you know what?
I will say I don't like to
simulator
play when the
for a reason.
bingo's going on. I don't like to play when the bingo's happening.
Which they happen every day.
Yeah,
But
they
whatever.
got it every damn day. It's just everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's like, are you a golf bar or are you a bingo bar? You can't be both. I've decided you can't be both. You got to pick one or the other.
Well, I think they'd go with the bingo bar because
They pack it
like I
in
said,
for bingo.
It's usually pretty easy to find a tee time there. But there was a hole, I don't know if it was at Bandon Dunes. It was probably the 11th hole, something like that. It was a 338-yard hole. I take out driver, swing one pretty hard, and I hit it 75 yards straight over the green.
Good
I'm like,
God, man. Yeah, no, you must.
I don't know
There had to have
about
been
that.
a boost on or something. I can't buy that.
No,
It's unbelievable.
I'm not buying that.
I got to tell you,
And then
though,
I'd hit my 9-iron and it would go 185, and I'm like, I don't know. And I had just played there a week ago. It was a different simulator, but different course, and there was none of that. A lot of the yardages seemed to be pretty legitimate.
Yep.
I don't know what was up with that. Again, it could have been some sort of altitude adjustment for being out west. I'm not sure, but it was a little strange. But my swing is good. I only played 9 holes with my new irons. I got the TaylorMade. Is it TP
is it the P790s?
900?
Or the-
TP790s.
P790s, yeah.
Yep. So I really like them, but I only played 9 holes of real golf with them. So now I've had the opportunity to now play 36 holes in the simulator and a little bit of Top Golf the other day. So have you been to Top Golf lately?
Yeah, I've been to Top Golf. Yeah, not. I mean, I haven't played it probably in a year and a half, but yeah, I
Okay.
enjoy it.
So I went to Top Golf the other day. I'm a big fan of Top Golf if you're going to hang out with friends. I am not a fan of Top Golf for the golf aspect, right?
Right,
Because it was a little bit gimmicky after a while. At first you're like, hey, it's fun hitting at these targets, and you can play the Top Golf game, you can play the Top Chip, but they did add, I think they call it Skytrax, which I think is copyright. Not Fox, but
Top Tracer, right? They have the Top Tracer thing.
NBC. Okay, well, I think they called it Skytrax, but it was
Okay.
essentially like what's the tracker that every pro carries with them?
Oh
The
yeah, like a
iPad looking
TrackMan,
deal.
like a TrackMan thing.
It's like a TrackMan. Yeah, it's not TrackMan, but it's the same idea, right?
Yep.
Like hitting a simulator. And now you look up at the screen and you can see your ball flight, you can see the distance, you can
Oh.
see all of those statistics, and that has allowed them to have a bunch of games that are fun to play. So there's a 9-hole round you can play. So there's no chipping or putting or anything, but you play, it was kind of cheesy. It had you choose Pebble Beach or some other famous golf course, but it was 9 par 3s, all obviously different distances, and some of them were like the Pebble Beach one you played. Is it 7 or 6?
Yeah, I think it's
That's
7. Yeah, the
downhill,
par 3. Yeah, the
short.
100-yarder.
So some of them were recognizable par 3s, but obviously there's not 9 par 3s at Pebble Beach. So some of them were made up. I don't know if they just made them approaches into the actual holes, but you hit your par 3 shot, and then your score is how far you are relative to the hole. So if you hit it 25 feet from the hole, your score on that hole is 25, and the lowest score wins.
That's fun.
So it's kind of like a fun little 9-hole match. It was great.
That's
It
awesome.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can get down with
Yeah.
that. I'm glad you're out hitting. It gets me excited. We made that change with you late in the season to get to the extra stiff driver, and I felt like your game woke up, and I felt you woke up. Like all of a sudden, my tie came back. Like he was like, I want to play golf more, want to get on the course more. Before that, I was very concerned. Like I was concerned that the fire was out, and that we just. I'm like, oh, my poor Ty. He's had kids. He's worn down. And now he doesn't want to play golf anymore. I'm very concerned. But it seems like we are going the other way. The fuse has been relit, and here you are.
Yeah, I totally agree. But just imagine you're duck hooking it or slicing it 50 yards every which way off the tee. It doesn't really make you want to show up to the golf course the next day. So, yeah, it certainly was a great change. And you get these things in your head sometimes that equipment matters, but it can't matter that much, right? If you're that far off the tee, no little change is going to make a huge difference. And I'm not a man for making excuses, but that small change, as we talked about on previous pods, made a huge difference. And yeah, that just makes the game more fun, certainly, especially for me, because that's kind of my advantage. I've certainly never been a great player in any other facet than hitting the ball far. So I'll take it.
I will take it too, because we got to get those scumbags next year. And when you're driving it straight, I like our chances. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We will. If I got you in full blast, we're gonna win some. We're gonna win some matches. It's gonna happen. Let's talk golf. Tiger. We didn't know when we last left in September when, if, how we would see Tiger on a golf course again. We see him before Christmas in the PNC Championship with young Charlie. He's in a cart, but he's hitting the ball and he's playing golf. And there he was out there with Charlie on Sunday battling for the win with the dailies. Did you catch any of it? What were your thoughts? What were your impressions? Where do we go from here?
You're absolutely right when you said we didn't know if he was going to be playing golf. Certainly soon, potentially ever again. Maybe for the pure fact that we just weren't there. We're not his doctor, and he's a pretty private guy. It's very fair to say that nobody really knew unless you were close to him. But I'm glad I watched him play, because if I just would have looked at the pure statistics, and again, it's kind of a goofy format. It's a scramble. You get to ride in a cart. Scramble is just not. It's not playing your own ball. It's a huge difference. We all know that.
Right.
If I had just looked on paper, I would have said, wow, I can't wait to see Tiger. I mean, Tiger's going to be back in a couple of weeks, and he's going to be playing every week. But I did actually watch about a day and a half's worth of it, and he looked fragile, right? He hit, the results were good. He hit the ball well.
Yeah, hit the shit out of it.
It was not his swing. It was not the swing that we saw on Twitter, where it looked like pretty darn close to his normal swing. I mean, it was an 80%. His knee was locked up, stiff, fragile swing. But the positive is he's certainly ahead of schedule for what we thought was even best case scenario. Had you told me a month ago that he'd be playing in this tournament, I would have said there's just no way. So that's a positive.
I agree with you. I agree that it was a real positive to see him get out there and tee it up. There were some things that if you want to talk positives and negatives, or in the case of like a Tiger, howls and growls. If you want to do positives and negatives on Tiger, I think you have to say the positive is you're absolutely right. He's out there playing. That's number one. Just a huge positive. Other positives are he's hitting the shit out of the ball. He was with a 85% swing, 90% swing, hitting it 290, 300, hitting fairways. He wasn't spraying it all over the yard. His iron game looked really good. I was actually very impressed with how sharp his irons were. He was pin high to every hole. And his wedge game looked pretty tidy. So those are positives. Those were things I absolutely liked. But there are some negatives though, and I think while we're all caught up in the Charlie Tiger shooting 57 story, there are some things that are pretty apparent when you watch him, and I think you touched on it a little bit, and that's the body fragility, right? That he just looks like a guy who will have a hard time playing 72 holes walking golf in 4 days. He looks like a guy who's going to struggle to do that.
Yeah, anyone who thinks that the swinging of the golf club is more than the walking of the golf course just has never walked 4 rounds of golf in a row. And I can't say I even have, but I certainly have a respect for the endurance that it takes to do that. And again, until I see him, walk a couple rounds in a row and play well, I'm going to have a hard time saying that or putting any money down that he's going to be in major contention or contention in any golf tournament for that matter. And the other thing with Tiger that we never really know is, yes, he's a competitive guy once he gets out there, but he's not a guy who shows up just to show up. So if he's not showing up just to show up, he might not show up. I mean, if he doesn't want it, you can't guarantee he'll play golf in the next year. I mean, is there a good chance? The fact that he played in this tournament certainly trends towards the fact that he very well may want to play competitive golf, but you can't say that with 100% certainty that he could have just wanted to play in this tournament to support his son, and he could have a long way to go. These golf courses are no joke, because you've been on site at a couple of these golf courses. They're no joke. It's not like walking Majestic Oaks.
No,
right?
You're 100%
walking
right.
Southern Hills is not walking Majestic Oaks.
Well, that brings
4 days in a row.
That brings me to the question. He says he's going to play like a Ben Hogan schedule. Now, if Ben Hogan, if his body even allows him to, Ben Hogan played basically, well, first of all, he played some historically amazing golf post-accident, but he played 6-7 times a year at best. He went to the Open one time. He won it, but he went to the Open once and never won it and never went back because I think that schedule was rigorous. It was challenging to go over there and do that. It's a lot on your body. So the question is, if he is going to play 6 times a year, I mean, where can he play where it's kind of okay for him? We have to assume shorter, flatter, and with good weather. He's not going to go play anywhere where it might be even a little bit cold.
Right, and that I would put big money on the fact that if he comes back, and he probably will, that's what it's going to be. And some of that probably has to do with the injury. Some of that probably has to do with Tiger Woods has proven a lot of what he needed to prove throughout his career, and people kind of need to come to terms with that. Of course, he wants to chase those records, but he's probably going to play in most majors if he's healthy enough. So he certainly has the opportunity to do that, but I don't think he has a lot to prove, at the smaller tournaments. And I say smaller tournaments, little bit in cheek, because of course he doesn't show up to small tournaments, but small tournaments in terms of the prowess of Tiger Woods. And like I said, that's probably what we're going to be treated to for the rest of his career, is that really, really skeleton schedule. And luckily he has the name to be able, he's going to be able to pick and choose wherever he wants to go for the rest of his career, and they'll make it work. So yeah, I guess turn on the TV when he's there.
I feel, and they did, the ratings beat the British Open on Sunday at the PNC. 2.3 million people watched the PNC on Sunday. 2.1 watched the Open Championship. So
unbelievable.
Go figure. Tiger is box office. Like, I don't know, people get on Twitter and they're like, why do they do Tiger? I'll tell you, because people want to watch Tiger. Believe me, I don't give a rat's ass about the PNC Championship. Do I want to watch Gary Player giggle it around with his stupid nephews and his dumb sons? No, I don't. Do I want to watch Lee Trevino and his 97 cousins and grandchildren and children play? No, don't care. Couldn't care less. Never watched 1 minute of it. Tiger's been in it now the last 2 years, and I've watched it. It's because Tiger's there.
Yeah, I had 7 people in my house on Sunday, and we watched almost the entire round.
Yeah, and you were thrilled. I was captivated by it.
People who don't golf one time a year, and they were dialed into every single shot. And, of course, this is Tiger's name, but a big reason my wife wanted to watch was Charlie.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily Tiger. Again, Charlie is a name because of Tiger, but that's what my wife was much more interested in, and my father-in-law.
Charlie's compelling.
Charlie.
Charlie's compelling, isn't he? I mean, he hits it. He hits it straight. He's a dead-eye putter. I mean, good God, how many clutch 10-footers is that guy going to make? I'm in scrambles all the time. I can't make anything. And that guy rolls in there, and he buried everything. It was really impressive to watch him. Really, really good.
He's 12 years old, and I don't know. I've watched 12-year-olds play golf, and it's never been anything like that.
Yeah.
I heard a stat that he's not in the top 100 players in his age group, which
I want to see the other 100.
Yep. Yeah, there's that. And I'm really not sure what the criteria is for the 12-year-old age group. I mean, it could be just a matter, it could just be that Charlie's not showing up to a ton of those tournaments that put you in the rankings or put you on the radar. But he's going to be able to play golf wherever he wants to play golf. He's going to have every opportunity. And again, I don't know. I don't know how 12-year-olds are supposed to play golf, but if he was a 17-year-old and he played golf that way, I'd say he was pretty darn good. So
Yep.
I think he'll be just fine.
I totally agree. If you think about the next time you see Tiger, it's probably, we got to guess Augusta, right? That everything he's doing from now until whatever is just to try to play the Masters. You got to feel like if there are 6 tournaments Tiger's going to play, you feel like Augusta's one of the 6 every year. The Players would be something I think he'd like to play, but I don't think he needs to play. I don't see him playing the Players. I don't see him playing the API or the Honda. His tournament at Riviera, I don't think he'll play the tournament at Riviera. Maybe one year, but not this year. I think everything's about playing 2 tournaments right now, Augusta and St. Andrews. If he can play those 2 events, I think he'd call that a great year.
Right. In terms of 2022, that I certainly agree with you. And then going forward, I think it's going to be about the 4 majors and getting ready for the 4 majors. I mean, I don't think he's going to care about playing, again, even his tournament. People are going to show up to his tournament, whether he's swinging the club or not. So, like I said, buckle up for those majors and enjoy it while it's here because, Tiger Woods, golf needs Tiger Woods more than Tiger Woods needs golf. I really believe that.
I don't even think the majors are always in play. I think he's going to look at some of those U.S. Open venues down the road and be like, nah, I'm not in for the U.S. Open. Or some of these, the PGA has tried to go to these Bombers courses, and I don't think that's him anymore. So, maybe a Southern Hills interests him, but I think going forward, I don't think he's interested in Quail Hollow or, he'll never play a Bethpage Black again, you have to assume, right? I mean, he'll never go play in venues like that. So for him, it's picking and choosing at the PGA and at the U.S. Open. It's got to be the right venue.
Yeah, I think that'll be a big part of the equation. Now, part of me thinks that he eagerly wants to chase the record for the majors. So there's a chance he won't want to pass up those opportunities, but it comes down to is Tiger Woods, can he put those future opportunities over the tournament at hand and make those smart business decisions. And I don't know. Again, he's such a private guy. You just know nothing about him. That's the crazy part is we watched him, you and I aren't too much different in age, but that's been our experience with golf has really been Tiger Woods. Right. From start to finish. So, you feel like you know a lot about the guy, but really you know nothing, great. You see him walking around with a cane and a leg brace feels like a few weeks ago. And he's swinging the club this week with some ferocity. So ultimately it was a positive.
Yeah. Net positive, 100%.
I wouldn't have guessed he'd have been playing in this tournament. And it again lends to the fact that he could be playing at Augusta, and as the TV ratings show, that's a big deal to golf. I don't think they have any control over it, but I'm sure that Jay Monahan and the rest of his team are certainly rooting for that fact.
No question about it. I know the Augusta National certainly is. I'm in. I agree. Net positive. One thing I think if you're PGA that you're kind of jazzed about is you like the cart rule for PGA Tour champions. And that might now that Phil went from I'll probably never play PGA Champions to playing quite a few PGA Champions events, you wonder if Tiger is starting to hey, the cart thing, that might allow me to go have a little fun and play. And if I'm competitive at 52, 53, maybe I go play 2 to 3 to 4 more PGA Champions events a year because I can ride in a cart. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility now. I was one of those guys that said, no way he plays PGA Tour Champions. He'll never play one event on the Senior Tour. I'm taking that back. I don't know I think he will play a Senior Tour event. I don't know which ones, and I don't know if he'll play a lot of them, but I am now convinced because the cart rules and because it's more of a hit and giggle and he likes hanging out with other golfers, I think he's in on some of that stuff. I think he'll play at least a few events on the PGA Tour Champions.
It's certainly possible. Like you said, I certainly would have leaned pretty hard to the negative there, but it's certainly possible. It remains to be seen. That's the great part about everything in our life is we get to speculate and then we get to actually witness it. So we'll see.
We'll keep an eye. Speaking of one place he's probably not going to play, and this is where I've been wanting to get your thoughts on this now for a while, but didn't want to get you. I didn't want to put out the Ty bat signal early and get you on the pod too quickly here. Wanted to let you have your off season because I know you earned it. The Saudi Greg Norman Golf League. It's there. It seems like it's got some steam. I feel like there are some PGA players that are either using it as leverage or kind of hinting or posturing that they're going to go that route. It feels like a little civil war is ready to break out on the tour. Where do you come down on this? I've been interested in your opinions. What do you think?
You see, I might disappoint you here because I don't know. I have a hard time articulating the way I really feel about this because there's a couple different ways to look at this. In my view, is it really about the fact that there's another league, or is it, that there's things that are drawing these guys, or that the money's good, or is it more so just PGA Tour players saying, I am not an employee of yours. You can't tell me what to do. And the fact that you're fighting so hard against these competing entities that are trying to draw us, and we just want to fight back against that. I lean more towards that, is that they kind of are pushing back a little bit and saying, hey, you guys don't, all
right, sorry about that, folks. We've got a little mix-up there on signals. You know how this is. When we're working with technology, Ty and I are 15 miles away from each other doing this podcast. We couldn't ask the internet to possibly support us for that. But here we are. We're back. Ty, you and me, still together, I think, right? We're still here?
I think we're here, Tim. I hear you loud and clear.
All right, let's hope we can keep it that way for a little while longer. We've been just talking Saudi golf, and I think this is what's happening. Clearly, the Saudi Golf League doesn't want us talking about them, and now we're having connection issues because of it. I blame it all on that. I think Greg Norman and all of the folks down in Saudi Arabia have decided they do not want slander on the American podcast waves, and they're coming after us tonight.
Well, for the sake of the connection, then I'll say that, I think it's all very legitimate. And if I played on the PGA Tour, I would want to play over in Saudi Arabia and make $1 billion. But this is similar to European soccer, and these guys can come over to the U.S. and play for years late guys, but ultimately the best soccer is being played overseas in Europe, and they know that, right? So there's an anecdotal example of this throughout time, and ultimately these best players are going to want to play on the PGA Tour. Could a Super League form 50 years from now? Slowly make its way to outdo the PGA Tour. Sure, it's possible, but I think it's a whole lot of nothing ultimately, and that's kind of my stand. I think it's a whole lot of nothing.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that as your signal continues to interrupt on me here, but I think we got the general idea of that. Hopefully we can. I'll just kind of talk for a little bit, and hopefully we keep the signal up as Ty's signal gets hopefully a little bit stronger. Might have to invest in one of them that signal strength thing that you used to have. That thing worked really well. But I don't know if it's on your end or on my end still. We haven't been able to quite figure that out. But hopefully we can get Ty's connection totally locked in, and we can get him back up and running and super strong. If you have that little signal booster, maybe hook us up with that right now and see if that improves things a little bit. I'll just vamp for a minute as we talk about that. Here's my problem with the PGA or with the Saudi thing. First of all, I think there's legitimate questions about the politics. The politics of it is not great, right? This is the same government that we know carved up a reporter in a foreign embassy. Like we pretty much know that happened. And this same government talks about how they have moved forward and they want to be this beacon of light in the Middle East, like Dubai. And it's like, well, I don't know if the folks in Dubai are operating in the same politics. And I don't know. I think it's and I have a really tough. It's clear sports washing to me. It's major sports washing to me. I think guys like Phil and Jason Kokrak and Bryson and Justin Rose are clearly, clearly using this to kind of I don't know, to clearly make money, put pressure on the PGA Tour, but also, I don't know, maybe leveraging the tour to pick up extra perks, extra benefits, trying to get the, you heard Billy Horschel say a few weeks back that, maybe we need to cut the fields down from 136 or whatever to 156 to like 110, and maybe we need to pay the top 40 out a lot higher than everybody else. Clearly the top guys have had enough, funding the lower tier guys on the tour. But I don't know. I feel like that's where this is all moving. This is all like leverage pieces. I don't know. It's weird to watch, but I think all of it stinks. All of it stinks. As a guy who loves golf, I hate the idea that some of the best players on tour are in bed with the Saudi government, or at least looking to get in bed with the Saudi government. Greg Norman's a shyster. I've never been a big fan of him anyway. That's one thing. And Phil feels like a big shyster right now, considering at every turn he's ripping the tour, he's ripping the USGA, he's ripping the RNA. But I don't know. It just, to me, it's the strange bedfellows of golf economics. I hate it.
Absolutely. That's the totally other side of this whole thing, is that we're not talking about a golf league in Canada or England. We're talking about a golf league in.
You there? I lost you again. This is frustrating with Tyus. Give me a minute. We're going to solve this riddle, hopefully. Thanks for hanging with us on this pod. It's a fight right now. I'm telling you, the Saudi government's all over us, Ty.
Absolutely, and it shouldn't surprise us with the whole Russia collusion deal. It's certainly in the air, and it shouldn't surprise anyone. This means we're on the radar, though, so it's good.
I think it does mean that. No, you're absolutely right. So we both agree the Saudi thing feels weird. To be continued on that. I think I'm interested to see the Saudi International, because it's not a sanctioned event anymore on the European Tour, or I should call it the World Tour, and it's not a recognized event by the PGA, and they don't want guys going over there, but yet they're still marketing like DJ and Phil and all these guys are going there. So I think that's the first big test, is how many PGA guys are going to be like, F you, I'm going.
Yeah, and I think that the players, I think, got it pretty easy with the previous talk about the Super League, is that Impact Player Fund. I think that was really their indicator, hey, the PGA is taking this seriously, and we do have a little bit of leveraging power against them, and they'll react quickly and with pretty, of course it only affects the top 10 guys, but that was a big deal, right? These guys have made a big deal of that. But ultimately, yeah, with the Saudi International, guys have played in the past. It was previously a European Tour event. Now it's I think an Asian Tour event, but they're granting more waivers, but there's all this red tape around it where you have to have played in a certain amount of Pebble Beach Pro-Ams and blah, blah, blah. But it proves that certainly the PGA is feeling the heat on this, and the players kind of have the old bargaining chips there. So that's my take on it.
The last piece I hate about this, though, is the Horschel comments. I don't like Billy Horschel saying, especially as a guy who had a hard time on this tour for a long time, Monday qualifying, missing cuts, him basically saying, yeah, the top guys are sick and tired of paying for the bottom guys, and we want less opportunities for them, more pay at the top. I think that's probably where this is heading, in a more top-heavy pay scale. But I don't know. I'm not saying I want to watch Bronson Burgoon every week, but I am saying, I'm not saying Bronson Burgoon shouldn't have a chance to play on the tour.
Yeah, and I just think that a lot of players who have proven themselves were once those guys, right? Golf's not the only sport where the top guys are do you think people um log on to Monday Night Football to watch a backup lineman, or do they want to watch Dalvin Cook? Of course they want to watch Dalvin Cook, right? But the backup lineman wouldn't make $1 million a year or $500,000 a year if it weren't for Dalvin Cook. So I have a hard time hearing anything from Billy Horschel in the context of best players on the tour, because he's a good player, right? But Billy Horschel always seems to have something to say, and I have a hard time listening a whole lot to him after the way he acted at that U.S. Open.
And
he
first,
just acted like kind of a dork.
Yeah, first of all of those guys who are talking shit, including Phil, by the way, if they're going to take that approach, then they all should cut $1 million check to Tiger. Like, let's be clear. Tiger's been the most underpaid. He's the most underpaid golfer in the history of golf, considering all the guys that got rich off of his name.
Absolutely.
Including Billy Horschel. That he doesn't get the $10 million FedEx Cup if it's not for Tiger. He doesn't have it. So if he wants to sit here and talk about how the big guys are tired of paying for the little guys, all right, Tiger should be standing there like Tony Soprano with his freaking hand out waiting for an envelope of cash. Like, that's what it should be like going forward.
Yeah, and if Tiger shows up to the Arnold Palmer Invitational, if there's a $9 million purse, there should be a $2.5 million show-up fee for Tiger Woods, right?
Yep.
He gets his part of drawing the crowd to that golf tournament. So yeah, you're absolutely right. There's the top golfers, and then there's Tiger Woods. He's in his own class, and there wouldn't be 10, 12, $14 million purses without Tiger Woods. No question about it.
I 100% agree. So I think that's to be continued. This will be an interesting, kind of tumultuous but fascinating year on the tour. And I'm certainly, that's a storyline that I want to keep an eye on, is kind of where this Saudi PGA, there's two different things. There's a PGL, there's the Saudi League, and then there's obviously what's going on with the tour and on the DP World Tour, plus all the COVID stuff in Europe. I mean, more lockdowns are back in Europe. What does that mean to the DP World Tour? I mean, this will be a tumultuous year of golf, but I think it'll be fascinating to take in. I want to ask you major venues this year. I want to walk through the major venues with you and see how excited you are, because there's some guys that are pretty juiced up about it. Masters, Augusta, traditional spot. I know we're all very excited for that. I'm sure you are, anyway.
Always. I mean, I don't think it doesn't really matter. The Masters is the Masters. There's a reason it goes back to the same golf course every year, because people are going to tune in. Golfers are going to show up. And as much as I love to hear golfers talk every year in the post game after every major and say that this is the one they really wanted to win, the Masters is really the one they wanted to win. Aside from some European and maybe some Asian golfers, probably maybe the British Open. But aside from that, any American golfer, the Masters is the one tournament they want to win.
100%. PGA Championship is a classic venue. Tiger's won there, I think. Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So it's big ballpark, tight, some trees. Seems like a proper major golf course venue. It's not really quirky or weird, but we loved Kiowa last year. Southern Hills is not Kiowa.
Yeah, I had that written down. This is the anti-Kiowa, right? So we were talking last year that we liked Kiowa because it was so different, and we knew it was going to produce a different result. Obviously, a player ended up winning that's won many majors, but certainly not a player who was on anyone's radar to win a major. So
certainly not. I
think you could say we were correct in that. Southern Hills is exactly what you would drop if you were on PGA Tour 2003 and you were building a golf course to be a major championship venue. It would be Southern Hills. I did look up past winners just because it's been a while, right? They haven't been there in a while, since 2007.
Yep.
Where Tiger was the winner. But that was actually a PGA championship. So they've done 4 PGA championships.
Yep.
At Southern Hills and 3 U.S. Opens, obviously over a large amount of time, dating back to like the 1950s. But I was trying to look at the winner of the 2001 U.S. Open. The last time U.S. Open was at Southern Hills. to try to get an idea of what type of player we might
That was
be
Goosen,
able to expect
right?
to win. And it was Retief Goosen.
Yeah, Goosen beating
over
Mark
Stuart
Brooks.
Sink
Or
and
Mark Brooks in a
Brooks.
playoff, right?
Yep. And I think Stuart Sink fell a stroke short. So that doesn't tell you a whole lot.
No. I think Watson was in the mix for a while. That was sort of the story of that tournament, that I think Tom Watson made a run for a while there. I think that was one of the storylines of that event. But yeah, it was Retief Goosen winning when he was sort of at the height of his powers, because he ended up winning at Pinehurst like 2 years later as well. Oh, Shinnecock. He won at Shinnecock over Mickelson.
And then on top of that, it's an area of the country where I don't think they see a whole lot of golf. I mean, there's certainly not an Oklahoma swing. Obviously, they spend time in Texas, but it's kind of in the, the central United States, pretty backwoods country area. Maybe not Tulsa itself, but so it's fun to see golf return to areas like this, similar to Wisconsin, right? With Whistling Straits,
right?
Golf doesn't always, they might go 3, 4, 5 years without visiting an area like that. So that's always fun to see the area rally around it, because they don't get to, it's not like if I miss it this year, I'll see it next year.
They're playing
right?
it
you
at
have to show up if you don't know when it's coming back.
Playing it at a different time too. I mean, not playing in Tulsa, Oklahoma in August has to be better. I mean, Oklahoma in May is probably a damn sight better than Oklahoma in August as far as heat and humidity, and should make for an interesting golf course. Should make for a fun. It should make for a fun event. I look forward to the PGA venue. I think that's going to be interesting. The U.S. Open also going to a venue that we haven't seen since 1999 Ryder Cup, the Country Club at Brookline.
Right, and the Country Club at Brookline is, I mean, if you look that up, it's going to be, there's a ton of history around that golf course.
Francis Ouimet.
Dates way back to Francis Ouimet. Yep. So a storyline I read this year is that there's a hole that traditionally hasn't been played at this golf course since Francis Ouimet won, I believe, the U.S. Open.
Yeah, 1913.
So that's kind of cool. Now, is that really going to show on TV? That's really up to NBC or CBS, whoever hosts the tournament, which I believe it was Fox, and now it's NBC, right?
Yeah, it's NBC.
Yep. So that'll be up to them if they can project that history, because again, that doesn't show on a hole by hole basis if you just turn on the TV. But I don't know a whole lot about the golf course. But again, those historic golf courses they tend to be, good sites for these major championships, and the golfers tend to buy into that type of stuff.
I could see Tiger wanting to play the Country Club too, because this is not a big ballpark. This is a classic venue. I think it's not the most hilly terrain. It feels like a course he might be able to play. It's interesting that they're going to a venue like this after so long. But I like it. I like the fact that they're going to these classic, proper golf courses. And the next year with LA Country Club, just getting way out of the rota for the U.S. Open and bringing us to some old gems is kind of fun.
Yeah, there's certainly a theme for this year. I mean, Augusta National, Southern Hills, the Country Club of Brookline, Mass., and St. Andrews, right? Nothing like this past year, where it was more new age, Kiowa. Those really aren't historic golf courses, right? Yep. So kind of cool. I'm okay with the themes, and I'm okay with, two things can be true at once. A new, fun, different golf course can be fun, and a traditional, historic, classic venue can be fun as well.
Yeah, I love classic venues. Over under 20, the number of times Golf Channel will show the greatest game ever played, because of Francis Ouimet and the Ryder Cup of 1999.
Over. I don't know exactly how TV works, but I've watched enough to figure out that you must be able to buy certain licenses to show movies, because the Golf Channel has definitely bought the greatest game ever played, and they have free range of playing it whenever they feel like it.
And especially this year, where it's actually kind of relevant. They will smash that one for sure. No question about that.
Yeah, I'll
That'll
hit
be
the
big.
over on that.
My only concern, because you brought up St. Andrews, my only concern is this the year where the technology and the kind of the distance debate really rears its ugly head? I mean, do they just decimate St. Andrews? Do they decimate the country club? Do they pick apart Southern Hills? Is this the year where that happens?
It's possible. I mean, I don't know Southern Hills well enough, but St. Andrews, I mean, I can remember watching a major championship at St. Andrews a few times in my life, and specifically, and I don't know that it'll matter a ton. I think there'll be enough buildup for it and enough of that lure, hitting the ball over the hotel and that 18th hole where it's a mile wide. There might be enough there that people might not really care about the finishing score.
You might be right. I don't know if people will care about the finishing score. I know this. If the wind is down, though, they're going to shoot 30 under. Or 29 under.
Yeah,
25 in the 25s.
Yep.
It'll be a high score.
And the end result of that certainly wouldn't be great, but I don't think, and maybe this isn't even on the table, but I don't think it would lend to the RNA not bringing the golf tournament back to St. Andrews or anything like that. And I still think I think a lot of the ratings are going to be based off of the buildup and knowing that it's St. Andrews and just the fact that that's a very recognizable course for an average golf fan. I think that people will watch, and that ultimately that might be all that matters.
I'm with you on that. I do think I want to watch St. Andrews regardless, and the fact that they go there every 5 years is fine with me, just like when the USGA goes to Pebble, every handful of years. It's fine with me. I don't really care what the score is when they go there, but at the same time, I want to make sure the course is competitive, and clearly, if they get wind, every links course is competitive when they get wind. But I do think if they go out there and they just take bunkers completely out of play and they're just driving every green or within reason every green, I think that's when the RNA will stand up and say, yeah, sorry, this TaylorMade Stealth driver and this new Rogue for Callaway, we're way out. That's not something. We're rolling it back. We have got to do it because they're going to destroy our golf course. Our links courses are going to cease to be relevant, and if that's the case. If wind doesn't matter and they can pick us apart, which we kind of saw that a little bit last year with Morikawa and Spieth and all those guys. While it was super compelling and interesting, I mean, they ate up a golf course because there wasn't a lot of wind, and when there wasn't wind, they picked it apart.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, that might have been the least entertaining major of the year. Although Torrey was certainly up there. You watch every major, but yeah, I'm not sure. Did you say the RNA would want to roll it back or the PGA?
I think the RNA is in lockstep with the USGA on this stuff. I think that's why USGA takes a lot of crap, but the RNA is right there. I think the RNA, if you listen to what Augusta National said last year, which is kind of its own entity, and you heard the RNA last year, what they said. Now, Mike Wan has been a little bit more, I mean, I think he's interested in it, but I don't think he's been as frontal about it as the Augusta National folks were. The Augusta National folks basically said, hey, folks, we're running out of real estate here. We can't exactly just keep buying out sections of Augusta Country Club to keep making holes 20 yards longer. Like, we cannot continue to do that. So there is a point of no return here, and we need to do, and it sounds like they would be the first to stand up and say, all right, we're just not going to allow you to have that driver at our tournament. Like, you're going to play Masters golf clubs here, which would be fascinating if they chose to go that route. But I don't think it's going to come to that. I think their power is going to be power that says, nah, we want these to be rolled back and changed. If it's the golf ball, if it's the equipment, if it's something, we cannot continue to lengthen. We are not lengthening Augusta beyond this length, so figure it out.
And there's going to come that time because at some point, golf is about recreation and it's about the bigger picture, and amateurs want to play a golf course that's similar enough to what the professionals are playing. And if professionals are playing a $10,000 golf course and amateurs are playing a 6,000 yard golf course, yard golf course, that's just too far apart. So at some point There's going to be rollbacks. What I don't know is it going to be the clubs? Is it going to be the golf ball? Is it going to be both? Because, yeah, they can't, these, Augusta and St. Andrews, they can't. There's certainly no room to grow, right? They're not in the middle of nowhere, right? They're in the middle of these small historic towns where everything is monumental and everything is important for historical relevance. They can't keep expanding. So, and you want the golf courses to be similar to how they were played back then. That's part of the lure.
Yep, I agree.
So,
and, we have got to. I think it's the ball first. I really do. I think they'll figure out a way to get the ball to spin a little more, and I think slow it down. And if that means winding it back to maybe where it was 10 years ago, I think that's what they will do. Because I really think it's the ball. I think the ball is because the ball doesn't spin, and the ball is harder than it used to be. Like if you ask John Daly says, with the ball that's there now, I have no advantage. But if we played the ball that we had 20 years ago, I think, I'd be really good because it's softer, it spins more, and I can move the ball around. Like the only guy who can really move the ball around in today is Bubba. Like he's the only guy who can really do it. Everybody else plays, 2-yard draws, 2-yard fades. You go play back 20, 25 years ago, and they'd be playing, sweeping hooks and slices and stuff like that. And Tiger's a high spin guy. A guy like him, I bet you would love a ball rollback. I think he would be ecstatic about it.
Yeah, the equipment really is the great equalizer, right?
Yep.
So the best players would be that much, I think that much better than the average or the slightly below average players. I think it would just widen the gap. But we're more so talking about, would it make the product more appetizing or make these golf courses more, be able to play these traditional and classic golf courses, without making a mockery of them. Yeah. Of course, that's the topic at hand. But yeah,
I think that's what this year's all about.
Yeah.
That's what this year's all about, I think. I think that's what these major venues are here to do this year. I think this year is the referendum. I think if they get through this year and St. Andrews plays tough and Southern Hills holds its own and the Brookline, the country club at Brookline, after hosting an Open 107 years ago with Francis Ouimet, with Hickories, still stands up as a really tough test of golf for professionals, I think maybe we quiet down on some of this stuff. But, I think if they trick up the country club and Bryson still goes out there and shoots 10 under par, I think that's the end of the conversation.
Right.
So that's good. Agree. Yeah, I totally agree. A couple predictions before we go. I know you sent a couple to me earlier when we were having tech issues, but sounds like we're pretty good right now. As I can't see you, but I can hear you, and you sound wonderful. Throw me out a couple of interesting things you're looking for the season.
Sure, and people might say that my bold predictions are not bold enough, but I think they are. So my first one is I do not think that Bryson will win a single golf tournament this year. I think that's bold.
I think that's bold. That's bold. Absolutely. I think he will win just because I think when he's on, and he doesn't have to be on every week, but when he's on, I think he's hard to beat because, he just does things. He can do things that other guys can't do. Even in that match, Brooks Koepka beat him up and down the golf course, but there were times where he hit balls that even made Brooks stop and go, I don't have that. That's pretty ridiculous. And if he's got 40 yards on the next longest guy and he's on with the putter, he'll win.
Right. That's fair. I'm really glad we didn't spend a lot of time on the last match because jeepers, golf fans were punished with enough of that. They didn't need to hear us talk about it.
No,
that
was
terrible.
Not. No, terrible.
But you're right. He certainly, what he does works when he has it. The reason that I'm making my prediction is because I look at a graph and I look at the pretty steep incline of Bryson DeChambeau now coming out of out of amateur golf when he hadn't beefed up. He certainly was on the trajectory to be a potential major winner. But then he had this steep uprising, right, where he was the talk of the town. You know, every great player, every commentator was talking about him every second about the fact that he was doing something no one had ever done, and he really kind of peaked. And now I just feel like he's on a little bit of a down slope. And I'm not saying he doesn't have it to come back, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think we're going to see a little bit of a regression to the mean here. And again, I'm not saying he won't. I'm not just saying he won't win the U.S. Open. I'm saying he won't win the BMW Championship or the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He's not going to win a tournament. So we'll see.
Fascinating. I'll give you my bold. I think Ricky Fowler is this year's Jordan Spieth. I think Ricky Fowler wins one tournament, and he goes from being non-factor back to being a top 10, 15 guy. And I think he contends at least one major.
I love that. I hope so, Tim.
Because you're a Ricky guy, so you're rooting for Ricky. I think we started in the fall. Didn't watch a ton of fall golf, but what I saw from Ricky, I was encouraged by. Like, we started to see a guy who looked like he could repeat the golf swing. And if the putter gets hot again and he starts to putt, I think he's going to be back. I do. And he's got too much talent. Got way too much talent to be away. I think Ricky's going to respond and have a big year. A nice comeback year. He's going to win somewhere this year.
I sure hope so. Like you said, he has all the talent in the world. No one can argue he had a down year. He, again, if you're talking about graphs and, he certainly was on the uptick at the end of the year, coming back a little bit more to the norm, but he did not reach it. So it would be a bold, what you're saying is a bold take. That's not an easy answer. So I have another bold prediction.
Yeah.
I think that Brooks Koepka is going to win a major, and I would put a good amount of money on it. I hate to harp on the Brooks Koepka versus Bryson. I'm not. This has nothing to do with that, but I just think that he's going to get it back this year. And you can't really take a 12-hole match and take anything from it, but I thought he looked good. I thought he looked confident. And if the health and the talent meet this year, I think that he's going to win a major or two.
I think if he's hitting that cut, if he gets back to really hitting the cut like he was hitting when he was really good, then look out. Because I think he's dead eye with the irons and the driver when he can just swing freely knowing it's going to do that little 2-yard peel. I think getting with Srixon, getting with a brand, playing equipment and a ball that he feels really good about and he's confident in, I think that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on because, does the Srixon ball make a difference right away for him? Who knows? But the pro guys, they're very particular about it. And I think the Srixon equipment's good. So I think he will benefit well from that. I like that move for him. And I think you're right. But, yeah, if we're sitting here at the end of the year with Bryson no wins and Ricky has a win and Brooks has a major, that would be pretty fascinating stuff, to say the least. I would be in on that 100%.
All right, what do you got?
All right, I got one more. Let's see if I can. I don't want to go bold on Tiger. We talked about him. I think that's just a wait and see. So I'm going to avoid the bold take on Tiger. Let's see. Bold take. I think Jordan Spieth wins a major this year. I think last year he was, he teased us a little bit, and you could definitely see he was back. But that there were still holes in the game. There was still the occasional foul ball. There was still the occasional double bogey. There were days where the putter disappeared, like he did in round 3 of the Open, where he just couldn't make anything. I think he battles back and wins, and I love him at St. Andrews. I love him at St. Andrews. I think he could go really low there. I think he can win the Open at St. Andrews. It would be incredible if he did. But I think these venues are not bad for him. I think classic venues are okay for Jordan. I think he's always going to play well at Augusta. I like him at Brookline, even though I've never seen him play there, but I like classic, kind of tree-lined. I don't think he's afraid of tree line. I think he likes trees because he can shape shots and he can see shots. And I think he's going to play okay. I like him. I think it's going to be okay this year. I think he wins a major.
I like that. I hate to be a victim of recency bias, but he did not play well at Tiger's tournament. I think he finished second to last.
Yeah, he wasn't good
not
there.
Too well, but
100%.
But was it St. Andrews where he had it? Was that the year where he tried to rattle off 3 majors in a row and he narrowly missed that putt on 17, and then it was too little, too late for 18.
Yeah, I loved that last round, but that last round, it couldn't have been worse for him. He hit wind late in the round going in on 17 and 18 that were just brutal, and he had wind on third round where he could have – the fact that he fought himself to third from the wrong side of the draw, I remember that tournament. That's where St. Andrews bit back. Like the first couple of days, DJ was all over that place, and you thought he was going to win going away. And then the wind picked up, and the rain picked up, and it became a different course, and Zach Johnson won it. So it's interesting, and it really is luck of the draw in the Open. But if he gets on the right side of the draw, I think the course sets up great for him, and I think there's a lot of chances where he can be creative around the greens. He's a wedge master. I think it's going to be awesome.
So just for fun, I got one more prediction for you.
Okay.
A bold prediction. And somehow, some way, a lot of programs do these bold predictions, or I can't remember what Score North calls them, something like that. But we got to have some way of coming back and holding us accountable.
Well, we have the archive here. We can play this podcast back and listen to it.
Okay, let's do that. At some point, let's pick a date and come back. But because you also want a little credit if you get it right.
100%.
So I think there's going to be 0 new major winners this year, and last year produced 2 of them, Rahm and Hideki, and really a half third one, right, with Colin Morikawa, who won his first major late in 2020. So sort of like a new major winner. So it is a bold prediction to say that there's not going to be any new major winners this year.
And that's repeat winners. That is bold. All repeat winners is bold. So
that's just based off of where the golf tournaments are at, right? There's if you're, let's say if you're John Rahm, who's never played the country club at Brookline, Mass, I do think that that's an advantage for a guy like, Justin Rose or Henrik Stenson, or these guys who have played at these golf courses. They kind of have a little bit of knowledge going in.
Or Tiger, if he could walk. Because Tiger actually has played there in competition.
Yeah. So that's my bold prediction. I think we're going to have 4 repeats. I'm going to say, this was not written down, I'm going to say Brooks Koepka. I'll go with Jordan Spieth. I'm going to say Henrik Stenson's going to come back and win one, and then Rory McIlroy.
Wow. I'm out. I can't buy into Henrik, but I got to think DJ might be a factor. I love Koepka. I think Spieth will win one. I love Rory. I think Rory's going to fight his way back into this too. I agree with you. And Morikawa may not be able to be stopped. Who knows? Morikawa might be a machine. Might be a cyborg.
That's true.
We don't know.
He might be the John Rahm of 2021.
Could be. Boy, we've got a lot of fun things for you this year on the Golf Pod. I know, first of all, we're going to do some daily. We're still going to pick our fantasy teams every week, but we're going to find a way to keep track of that this year. Ty and I are going to set that up offline and have a true season-long competition this year. We cannot wait to talk that. We're also going to do, even though he just said no first-time winners are going to win, we're still going to do it anyway, and that is the first-time major draft. We are going to take 4 guys each at some point in the early part of this season. Maybe even that first podcast when we start doing Kapalua in 2 weeks. We're going to draft 4 first-time, non-major winners for a first time this year. Ty, because he's my guest, already has the first pick. We're going to give that to him when he decides to go. So he's got time to think it over. And we're just going to have a lot of fun on the pod this year. It's going to be great. We did this last year. We kind of fought our way through it and kind of felt it out. This year, I think I feel good about where we are. And we're going to talk golf. It's going to be a lot of fun this year with you and I.
I can't wait. I already have been thinking a long time. You and I have been talking about this first-time major draft winner. And that's what bold predictions are for. You can go against them, right? Doesn't mean you think it's going to happen, but there's certainly a chance, and you want to be the one who is right if it does. So I have a lot of thoughts on that, and I can't wait for that.
No matter
we'll be talking about that all year.
We will track those guys too in the majors and just see who has the highest finishers as well. So even if nobody wins, we want to see who's trending in that direction. And there's plenty of good names to go around. So it should be a fun golf season indeed. Ty, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you, best to the family, all that jazz. It was great to talk golf with you for an hour.
Fantastic, Tim. Thanks so much. And it's great to be back. It'll be good to be getting back in the habit of doing these. And hopefully we can double our listenership.
That's our goal. That's our mission. Goal. Huge goal this year. That would be big time. And again, if you enjoyed it, thank you again. Share it out. Subscribe. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're Podbean. You can find me on Twitter at Tim Anderson Pod, Instagram at Mr. Tim Anderson. And you can send me an email, timpodcast1@yahoo.com. And you can find my guy, Ty, at tyshrupp.com for all of your insurance needs, all of that good stuff. So until next time, for Ty, this is Tim saying keep your head up, and we'll see you.
Welcome back.